So this episode I want to talk about gray banded kingsnakes. Check it out. Alright, so we're here at my parents' house. We gotta unload the car. It's Sunday today while I'm shooting, and I don't know why I'm looking at the screen and not you, but smoking a little Perdomo Lot 23 Maduro Churchill. I'm a cigar nut, as most of you know. Of course, with nicotine comes caffeine. I love these things. My parents live out here in the sticks. Nothing but woods. It's a nice spot. Spent a good chunk of childhood out here. I love it. Fortunately, most of my family lives right here in Beaufort County. So I don't have to go very far to see anybody, which is a luxury not a lot of people have. Alright, so if any of you guys follow me on Instagram, then you know that my dad is a big fan of Alterna, which is the gray banded kingsnake. And he has a really cool collection of them, so I figured while I'm out here, I would bring the camera and do an episode about them because they're awesome snakes. They're gorgeous. There's really no other species like them, especially in the US. And this is one of his Blairs. And this one's really unique. You can't even really see it on the camera, but he has this just pink wash over his entire body. This is an adult male. It's not very big. I think there's some corn snakes that get a fair bit bigger than these guys, but this is one of his males, one of his breeders, and one of my favorites that he owns. Really mild-mannered, very mellow. I've never even had any of his even attempt to take a swing at me. They're very easy to take care of. He keeps his at... He keeps his gray bands at between 82 and 84 or so on the hot end. He does feed his a pretty good bit, so some of his are a little on the chunky side, but he keeps them on aspen with a water bowl and a hide, and you'll see that in a little bit when I go through and kind of do a little montage of all the different stuff he has. There's a ton of different localities of these things out of Texas. So there's a poster here that has all the different variations and all the different, I don't even know if I necessarily call them localities per se, but all the different color variations is probably the best word to say it, because what you find is where these guys come from, you find them in like almost little patches to where one group can look one way and another group can look completely different, and they're only, you know, a couple miles apart, but they're still the same species. So these guys are native to Texas. When they're babies, they seem to be primarily lizard eaters, seems to be the big thing, and that's kind of the biggest struggle with these guys. Kind of similar to chondros, is that when they're babies, getting them to start eating mice is kind of tough because a bulk of their diet when they're little is probably small lizards. I'm assuming maybe race runners or whatever small species they have out there in Texas. But once they get hooked on mice, they're pretty easy to keep, and you're not gonna have a whole lot of problems with them. It's kind of funny too, because there used to be a point in time where gray bands were all the rage. Gray bands were really popular, especially among like some of the really serious sort of king snake breeders and guys. And over the last couple years, probably even maybe a decade or so, they've really sort of tapered off in terms of popularity, and you don't seem to see them as commonly kept as a lot of other species. You know, like the Mexican black kings are really popular currently, but there was a time in the 90s and like early 2000s where these guys were it. There's still a good handful of guys that are super hardcore about them. You know, my dad being one of them. This is pretty much almost all he keeps, minus some Thayeri king snakes and some eastern chain kings. Everything else, it's gonna be these guys, and you'll see why, because they come in so many different variations. It's ridiculous. So here's another example of another one. This one guy's actually in shed. He's usually like, the other one had kind of a pink wash. This guy's really got it going on, so you can't pick it up. But this is another one of his males. I'm keeping it to males right now because he's paired some of his females, and some of them just had their pre-lay shed, so I don't know which ones those are, so I'm not really gonna mess with the girls. I'll show you some of the males. This is another one that's one of my favorites because this one's super unique. Just really not a whole lot of gray, mostly all the oranges and stuff. So here's another one of his males. This is one of the smaller ones, but this is actually a wild caught. This one comes from, I think, East Sanderson is the locality of this one, which is a county. And I love this one just because of the contrast. I love the stonewash sort of look on the bands, like the very sort of eroded look of this one in particular. And like I said, you can see also how mild-mannered they are. None of these are trying to bite, unlike the Eastern Kings, which seem to be a little more spazzy, kind of like Brooks or some of your Florida Kings maybe. But it's hard to believe that this is something that nature produces on its own like this. They're really gorgeous snakes. And if you can get them eating mice when they're young, you're all set, you're good to go. Because after that, they're really easy to care for. Really great king snakes. Compared to other species like the easterns and stuff, they don't seem to be as big of snake eaters as a lot of other king snakes. They're strange little things. So you'll see that the setup for these guys is pretty simple. Water bowl, hide, and then he just uses, my pops likes to use aspen, which is really popular with a lot of colubers. They seem to enjoy being able to dig around a little bit. But now I'll go through and I'll show you some of the other ones in his collection. Check it out. Alright y'all, so I hope this introduced a few of y'all to this awesome species. If you can get your hands on some, I highly recommend it, just as long as they're established and eating mice, no problem. If you're willing to take the challenge and try and get babies to eat on their own, then that's also a very rewarding experience, and kind of like chondros, once you get them eating on pinkies, there's not really much of a better feeling of accomplishment than finally getting them to do what they're supposed to be doing. Lampropeltis alterna, please check them out. Very much worth it. As you can see, there's a ton of variety in the species. There's a ton of options as far as color and pattern and all that good stuff. There's also one or two groups, well, more than one or two, but there's a few groups on Facebook completely dedicated to this species that are definitely worth joining, so you can see who's got what for sale. Now that Facebook's been cracking down on animal sales, you kind of have to know people and message them and deal with buying animals that way. So definitely join these groups. If you're interested in this species, learn more. They're not hard to take care of. They're awesome snakes. Easy to keep, easy to handle. Highly recommend them. Really check them out. And if you like this video, be sure to subscribe. Hit the like button. I hate saying subscribe and hit the like button. If you want to subscribe, subscribe. If you want to hit the like button, hit the like button. If you have any questions, of course, leave them in the comments. Follow me on Instagram, @PalmettoCoastExotics. Follow me on Facebook, @PalmettoCoastExotics. Enjoy the rest of your day. See you later.